Historically, Southeast Asian nations, with few exceptions like the Philippines today, have largely avoided aligning decisively with either China or the United States. However, there are growing indications that US influence in the region is waning in favor of China. While this shift doesn't necessarily imply that Southeast Asian countries would back China in a military conflict over the South China Sea or Taiwan, nor that they are unconcerned about China's militarization of the region or aggressive tactics against the Philippines, Vietnam, and others, it does point to China gaining ground in most of these countries, except for the Philippines. Countries like Laos and Cambodia have already become highly dependent on China for aid, investment, diplomatic backing, and defense cooperation, making them nearly satellite states. Myanmar too leans toward China, though its political future remains uncertain due to the anti-junta opposition's progress. Even in wealthier and more influential Southeast Asian nations, China's influence is growing. Southeast Asian leaders are displeased with US President Joe Biden for skipping the East Asia Summit for 2 consecutive years, a vital forum for regional engagement. Despite Vice President Kamala Harris's visits, there is concern that her top advisors, many of whom prioritize transatlantic relations, are not fully engaged in the region. This lack of US presence at critical Asian summits is not unique to the Biden administration. Previous administrations, including those of Trump, Bush, and Obama, faced similar criticism. Additionally, many Southeast Asian nations, heavily reliant on China for trade, have been frustrated by the absence of a coherent US trade strategy in the region. While Southeast Asia has been actively forming trade agreements, the US has remained on the sidelines, offering only modest incentives through the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, IPEF, which falls short of a comprehensive trade deal and has been met with lukewarm reception. The war in Gaza has further eroded US popularity in the region's Muslim-majority countries like Indonesia and Malaysia. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, despite long-standing ties to the US, has been highly critical of its role in the conflict. At the same time, Anwar has strengthened ties with China, seemingly downplaying Malaysia's overlapping claims in the South China Sea with Beijing. Until there is a resolution in Gaza or broader shifts in the Middle East, it will be difficult for the US to regain public support in Malaysia and Indonesia, where perceptions of the US have significantly deteriorated. This growing dissatisfaction with the US was reflected in a survey earlier 2024 by the Isaias Yusof Ishak Institute in Singapore, which gauges Southeast Asian views on various issues, including perceptions of major external powers. For the first time, the survey revealed that China is now seen as the most influential economic, 59.5%, and political strategic, 43.9% power in the region, far surpassing the US.